Okay, I'm William Stroh, called Bill, and I was born on August 23rd, 1930, which is quite a while ago, 75 years plus. And I was born in Valley Stream, Long Island, New York, and that's it.
Is that where you grew up? You spent your
I
childhood?
grew up in mostly in Rockville Center, which is a little bit further out on the island, and then we moved to Massapequa, and always out on the island. And,
Were your parents originally from Long Island?
No, they were both from the city, I believe. My father was, I guess, from Manhattan. My mother, more like Brooklyn, but I'm not positive of where they, I think Flatbush area. And they settled out on the island.
What were their names?
My father's name was Fred Walter, and my mother was Dorothy Estelle, I believe.
And do you know her maiden name?
Place, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Did you grow up with grandparents in your life, or?
Well, my father, I never knew too much about his parents. I don't know whether they came from Germany. They were over in Germany, but he grew up with his uncle and aunt, Uncle George and Aunt Lena, who lived in Manhattan. I remember it was about a 4-story walk-up apartment that they had there. This is about all they had. They didn't have elevators in those days, and when we went to visit them, we'd have to walk up the stairs, and it was an old place at that time, even.
And they raised him.
They raised him, yes.
I
know people have looked into the genealogy of his, trying to trace him back, and they lose him. So whether the parents died over in Germany or what happened, we don't know.
Interesting. And did he have siblings?
He had a brother George and a brother Marty, which I met at different times with their wives. And
were they all raised by the same aunt and uncle?
I don't think so. I don't know how many people that I can remember from the past. I don't know how they got involved with it. There was a family, the Hogs, who were very good. They were probably friends of the grandfather of his father, the people who raised them. Let's put it that way. And I really don't know that much details, and I haven't tried to find.
But you knew the aunt and uncle that raised him, or?
I knew them. They used to come out every Christmas, and I know during the war we were not told not to say anything about Germany, because they were from Germany.
Oh, they were.
During the war was Hitler and things, and obviously we were against Hitler, and I don't know how he stood on that, but I think he was in favor of Germany beating Russia anyway, and so we were told never to speak about the war while they were out in our place.
What were their names? Do you remember?
That was George and Lena. Those are the people who raised him. His uncle.
Right.
I think we called him Uncle George and Aunt Lena. So I don't know how they got related in there, but.
And their last name was not Strom.
Their last name was Strom.
Oh, it was also.
Yes.
Yeah.
But they were not his parents, so we called them Aunt and Uncle. And but that's about all I can tell you about them. My mother, obviously. Her parents, they can trace them back quite far. I haven't done it, but I know my son has and others. But my father, you can't do too much with.
Did you know your mother's parents? Did you?
Yeah, I knew him very. The only thing I can remember about her father was he had a car with a rumble seat, and we used to sit in the rumble seat that opened in the back like the opposite way of a trunk.
Yeah.
And it had running boards, so that when he came out, we would stand on the running boards and go down the blocks with the slowly, obviously, kind of. Both of those don't exist today.
I know. Well,
but,
rumble seats I remember in cabs early on in New York City.
But I guess he died pretty early, I guess, because I don't remember much about it. My mother's mother we called Nana, and she grew up with her sister, with my mother's sister, in Rockville Center also, where we were. And that's it.
And her you got to know reasonably well.
Yeah, we got to, I'd walk past the house and she'd want something at the store. Yeah, we lived about a block away, and so I'd get that for her and come back. And, yeah. Yeah, she lived quite old. I don't know how long. You know what age it was, but it was probably 60, 70. In those days, it was a long time
Yeah.
compared to nowadays.
I know. Yeah. Do you have any idea how your parents met? Where they met, or where they married, or?
No, I really have no idea. They were married when I came, obviously. And, so,
Were you the firstborn?
No, I was second. But I have no idea really how they met. And I probably could have looked that up, but I just never was really that interested. I guess they met and they had a good life together, and they lived a long time.
You did, yeah. And how many children did they have?
She had 4 children. My older brother, Walter, was killed in Korea during the Korean War in 1951, I believe. And my younger brother died of a heart attack in Texas, well, maybe about when he was about 60. And my sister still is living in this area. She moved up from Long Island to Westchester many years ago. She moved in Chappaqua, and then she lived in Walker Park, and now she's in Heritage Hills, which is like a senior condominium development not far from here. And she's still very active, playing tennis like I do, but I don't play with that group. But she's she and I are the last 2 that are living in the family. The other 2 are dead now. And,
Yeah. Were you close growing up, your brother and sister? And
oh yeah. My sister was quite a tomboy. She used to play all sports, and because she had 3 brothers, and you can't do much different when you grow up among the boys. And we always had boys over, so that she got very good at sports, and she was probably better than some of us were. But she was great in school when she played with the girls, because she could play much better than them, and so in most of the school activities she was very good. My brothers, yeah, we were very close. We played baseball together, and guess many other intramural sports, not not high school sports, but we were a pretty close family. And
what were holidays? I mean, did you have an extended family? Did you have big Christmases or Easter celebrations? Or?
I don't remember having any big celebrations at all in my family. We had our family, and as I said, my father's aunt and uncle who raised them, they used to come out at Christmas time, and maybe Thanksgiving, I don't know. Maybe 2 or 3 times a year they take the train out, and we'd pick them up at the station. And but I don't remember any big parties like we've had since we've had kids. My wife is very big on that, and I have to go along with it.
Yeah. Did the aunt and uncle have children of their own?
I have no idea. But, I don't recall any. They certainly never came out with any. And how my father got there, I don't know. You know, what their relationship was to his father and mother. I couldn't tell you, and I don't think anybody can. I know, as I say, many people have tried to find out, to trace it back a little.
It's hard, yeah.
Haven't been able to do that.
What do you remember of your childhood? Do you remember your neighborhood, the house you grew up in?
Oh, I remember the house I grew up in the neighborhood, but it's a typical neighborhood, except we didn't have school buses. We had to walk to school and things of this type, because it was a different generation, another century behind. But it was a typical area. We had a nice park nearby. We could go and play basketball or whatever. And it's about all I remember.
Well, luckily, back then, as we were saying before, there were no video games. There wasn't a lot of television. So, I mean, do you remember you played basketball, and were you also actively involved in your church and social stuff like that?
Yeah, we went. My parents were very insistent, I guess, that we go to church. And they didn't go, but they made sure that every Sunday morning we went, and so we had a good group there, and that I got involved with. And we used to walk across to the park. We played basketball, pick up baseball if we had enough people there, and it was a very active time. We would go ice skating. People don't do that much anymore because they, as you say, they got video games and things, but they used to flood part of the park, and we'd have ice skating over there.
And school, did you go to sort of the local public school?
Yeah,
or?
we went to the local schools, and we had, so I say we had to walk. It was not too far, but it was, in the rain or whatever, you had to walk to the schools. I remember if it was really bad weather, we'd have one of the mothers would pick up 3 or 4 kids and drive them, and I guess I must have been a little different from my brothers and sisters, because my mother said they used to call me Lightning, because here comes Lightning. He'd be the last guy out to get to the into the car. Everyone's sitting out there waiting, and but I don't know why I would have been like that. Maybe they just hid my shoes or something. But
did you enjoy school? Do you remember did you particularly?
I had a lot of fun in school, but I don't think I got as involved in things as I could have. I had a paper route the whole time, and I used to do caddying on the weekends, and so I couldn't get too involved in sports. I was involved in the band. I played clarinet and saxophone, and used to play in the marching band when the football games were on. But in general, I didn't get too involved in the sports at the school itself.
It sounds like you were very busy. If you were in band and you had a paper route and you
were
caddying.
But I couldn't get involved in the school activities as much.
Huh. How did you get involved in all the other things? How did you end up being a caddy?
I guess I needed money. The paper route, I don't know how I did that either, except that somebody retired from the route around our area at about the time that I was getting about that age, and so he asked, or I somehow inquired, or somehow I got his paper route, and it was a good route. It had a lot of the stores in the area, and I guess I made enough money to keep busy.
Was that early morning?
No, it was after school. That's why I couldn't get involved in most of the things.
What newspaper was it?
It was the Long Island Star. They only had the Newsday and the Star at that time. And I think the Star is probably gone now, but I know the Newsday is still around. But
And where did you caddy? Did you live near a golf course?
yeah, the Rockville Center had the pretty good golf course. I don't know if it's. I'm pretty sure it's probably still there, but the Rockville Center Country Club. I don't know what the name of it was, but I used to caddy there on Saturdays and Sundays.
Did you have any interest in golf, or it was just a job?
It was just a job. I played a lot of golf once I grew up. But,
you did, yeah.
Started with IBM. They had a big country club, and if you didn't play golf, you didn't do much there. So most of the guys I worked with, we just started playing golf together. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, you must have learned some golf when you were caddying. Learned about the game.
Well, I learned, right. I didn't know how to swing and hit the ball, but I learned what the aim of the game was anyway.
Yeah. And, how old were you when you did that, the caddying?
Probably 14, 15, 16.
Wow. In high school. What high school did you go to?
Southside High School in Rockville Center. And I don't know too much about it now where it is. We used to have a football field which was up in Allen Field near Baldwin, because we didn't have room at the school for the those activities.
Right. Did you have close friends in high school that anyone you kept in touch with through the years, or?
Well, I had a lot of close friends in high school, but it's very hard once you get separated and out of college and things. You get into I can't think of anyone in my class that I kept contact with. I know from my sister, who had some girls in her class who knows some of the people in my class, and then she when I get together with her sometimes, she'll tell me that such and so is doing this, or so and so died, which happens at this age. When you hit your 70s, you lose a lot of your the people that you used to know. But no, it was a good high school. I think it was very friendly. We didn't have the problems of a lot of the high schools around now with the drugs and things. But I really I lost contact with just about everyone that was in the class.
Yeah. Was there a real awareness of the war during your sort of young teenage years? I mean, do you remember?
Oh yeah.
You did, yeah.
Yeah, I was an air raid warden. I used to have a badge, and I could run with my flashlight with the red over the front so that it wouldn't show to the planes above. I used to be based at the firehouse, and then they would send me with a message over to the hospital or the different places where they had civil defense centers. And so I got to sit at the firehouse most of the time, and it was very well prepared in case something did happen.
Yeah,
but
you were
nothing
very
ever
young.
happened.
But you were very young then when you were an air raid. You were younger. I mean, if you were born in 1930.
Yeah, that was
quite
it. I'd be 11, 12,
Yeah,
13.
It's a lot of responsibility.
Right. It was I considered it very serious. I think they just considered it sort of well, give the kid a message to take over to bring some coffee back or something.
Yeah.
I don't know what they would be sending, but yeah, it was. I was one of the few who could be out on the street with my little armband on to during our air raid warning or a rehearsal, I guess what they
Yeah.
call them. But they used to have drills all the time, and whenever that drill went, I had to go to the place. And
Do you remember noting the end? I'm sure you do. The end of the war.
oh yeah, I remember that very well.
Yeah. How did you hear the news?
Let's see. There were two. Germany surrendered. I remember that one, and then the big one that you remember is the atomic bomb dropped, which was in the summertime, and I was up in the Adirondacks at a camp where I was a counselor, and I can remember that Japan surrendered, and everyone went out to the different areas around there, and it was a very exciting thing because they expected Japan to be a long war,
Yeah.
but once they dropped the atomic bombs, boom, it ended right away, and I can still remember that. I was about probably 15,
Yeah.
1945. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey.
You were working as a camp counselor.
Yeah, I worked up in Camp of the Woods in the Adirondacks in the summertime, and played in the band up there, and waited tables and things.
Do you remember the name of the camp?
Speculator, New York, Lake Pleasant. Beautiful camp. It's still up there, but we haven't been there in years. We used to stop up with the kids when we would drive up in that area, and just stop for a day or two, and then continue on to Canada or wherever we're going.
Did you enjoy working with kids? Being a counselor?
Well, we weren't working with kids. It was adult camp.
Oh, I see.
It was a Christian adult camp up there, and we waited the tables, and we played in the band, and they had no babysitting or things like that. I wouldn't have liked that, I don't think at all.
Yeah.
But I met a lot of nice people there, and again, I probably don't know too many of them anymore. I haven't really thought about who they were, but
Right.
well, every now and then I think of some of them. And,
When did you start studying music? You said you played clarinet?
yeah, in fifth grade. Fifth grade is when they started to have band lessons in the school, and I took up clarinet, and I played sax, and all the way through high school. And we had a dance band, and we played at different places, and it was...
The high school had a dance band? Or you were in...
We had a dance band that got taken out of most of the kids. Some of the kids that were in the high school band, and we played a lot of different high schools. Actually, I don't know whether you ever played at any of their proms, but a lot of the dances at different schools and churches and things.
Which instrument did you stick with? Were you on saxophone or clarinet?
I played both of them, but
Both?
mostly the saxophone. Clarinet you couldn't hear too well, and if you had trumpets and things in the band. So
Yeah. What kind of music? What kind of
it
music?
was dance music, but not the rock and roll that you have
No,
today.
of course.
And,
Yeah.
it was more the ballads and things. It was much nicer music in those days, and
Did you enjoyed playing? Obviously, if you continued.
oh,
for
I
so
like
long.
to play. Yeah, I stopped when I went to college.
You did?
There was just no reason to play. There was no band there or anything. So I think Wendy, my daughter, took up the clarinet when she got old enough to try it, and to play it for a couple of years. And I don't know. I think Diane might have also. I'm not sure, but we still have the laying around. The saxophone I saw because that was more valuable. You get more money out of
You
that.
never played again after high school?
Not too much after that, no.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
And you've never had an interest to try it again?
Once in a while, I would think of picking it up and trying to play, but no, there's too much other things to do with it.
Which instrument would you pick up if you were going to pick one up now?
Probably the clarinet, because that's the only one I got left. And I wouldn't want to put money into a saxophone at this age. But no, it was enjoyable. It's one of those things you go through as a phase in your life. And
yeah. Well, it sounds like you did it rather seriously for a while.
I liked it. Yeah, we almost went to play at a nightclub in Atlantic City for a summer. They wanted to. You'd start at something like 9 or 10 at night, and you'd play to 3 in the morning, and you had to learn new songs as it went along, and you had to be in the union. But it wasn't the Atlantic City that it is today. I mean, it was really the boardwalk in Atlantic City and small places. There was no casinos and things. But I didn't want to do it, and I don't know whether someone else did, but we decided not to do it. But it would have been every day, and it would have been good money for us.
Yeah.
But
you must have been quite a good musician.
Well, we had a good band.
Yeah.
And good drummers, good trumpet players, trombone. It was a real band. It was the big band era.
Yeah.
Tommy Dorsey, Benny Goodman, and not the guitars that you have nowadays and the amps that make so much noise that you can't even hear yourself think.
Yeah.
But we had a good band. We had quite a number of songs that we played, and so we were very well known in the area, let's say, and it was a small area. But if people needed a band for an event or something, we would, probably be notified of it. And
I bet you could still remember some of the songs that you.
Oh, I remember the song, "In the Mood" type songs that you still hear many times nowadays. But they're not the most popular songs nowadays. But I still like them when I hear them.
Yeah. Did you continue to be a music enthusiast after you stopped playing? Did you follow musical trends or listen to a lot of music?
No, I don't. No. I don't think I ever cared much about musical trends.
Never listened to Elvis.
Most
or
of the
Beatles.
music got to be so noisy, and Elvis was probably the first one of them, and then the Beatles, and all the way that to me music went downhill from those days. And, but I guess maybe it went downhill even at my age when we didn't have the classical stuff.
Yeah. So from high school, what did you do when you graduated high school?
That's when I graduated high school was just about the start of the Korean War. So my brother was drafted, and I was a year younger than him. So I decided what I would do was join the Naval Reserve, because I knew I didn't get seasick, and I didn't want to shoot people in the mud. I was not the type who liked to crawl around shooting guns, and if you're in the Navy or you wind up shooting at something which is 20 miles away or something, you don't know what you did, so whatever happens happens. So I joined the reserve, and I never got activated. Came very close to when I got into being able to strike, which they mean by go into a particular major, which I wanted to go into electronics. And the week I was supposed to go into the electronic technician class at the meetings was the week that everybody got the letter saying you're activated, including the instructor. I mean, the whole class was gone. And so 1 week earlier, I would have been part of the class, and I would have gone to it. But I never got activated, and the Korean War started to die down. And when it died down, I figured, let me go to college and get a degree in electronics, because if I had learned a lot in the meantime from the electronics. I worked at Hazelton Electronics Corporation during those years. And so I went to school and got my electrical engineer's degree. But I never wound up going on active duty. I spent 8 years in reserve, and
Wow.
then I dropped out.
Yeah. And I guess your brother.
My brother
your
was
brother.
he went to Korea and was killed over there. Yeah. Never found him.
Really?
He's still missing in action, but well, officially he's an
Right.
MIA. But
And
I,
how much older was he than you?
about 2 years older than I
Just
am.
2 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hmm. So you studied electronics after that, and that was what your interest was? You were very interested in...
Well, yeah, I was. I had worked as a technician at Hazelton Electronics, and all you could do was wire things up and test them, and the other people did the designing, and I figured, yeah, I'd like to do some of the designing myself, and but unless you had the degree, you couldn't. In those days, it was very important to have it, and I guess it is now, but you had to be, in order to get government contracts and things, which was what Hazeltine had, you had to have so many engineers and so many this, and if you didn't have the engineering degree, you weren't one of the people involved in the design. And so I went back to school and got my electrical engineering degree, and then I got master's degree in both at RPI, and worked at IBM for 40, maybe 35, 36 years. I'm not
Wow.
sure. And,
So you really
yeah.
saw the birth of the computer age
the,
firsthand. Yeah.
When I went to IBM, it was going to be for computers, and I didn't know much about computers. There was a couple of big computers out. And,
What year was that about?
1956,
Wow.
when when I graduated, and I didn't know, what we would do in computers. In college, all you had was analog computers, which were not nearly as accurate as a digital computer. An analog computer, you could get different results every time you did something. But transistors were just coming out at that time, and most of the big computers that they had, ENIAC and things, were all vacuum tube, which took a whole big room, and air conditioning you needed and things. Nothing like today. But in those days, they were trying to not only miniaturize them, but also make them faster, because vacuum tubes were not faster, and they were certainly unreliable as far as aging is concerned, because they got weaker and weaker, and you had to keep changing things, and transistors were much more the solid state device, and so I started out doing that. And,
What were the earliest computers being used for? What were they designed to do?
mostly atomic energy and big mathematical problems. I think they predicted maybe 4 or 5 big computers would be sold, and that's all the different big companies. And now there's so many thousands and thousands of them. That was one of the marketing blunders, I guess, of the day. But nobody really knew what people would use them for. I mean, now they use them for games mostly, the kids anyway, with all their microprocessors and Xboxes.
Yeah. What have you thought of the whole, the route that technology has taken with computers? Have you followed it along from a professional standpoint?
Well, not since I retired, but what I worked on mostly in IBM was hardware. I very rarely gotten involved in software, except when we had to make sure the stuff worked all right, so we would have write a program, and that was mostly in machine language. I didn't use the Fortran or things. We'd have to write in the language of the machine itself to make sure it could execute the instructions and do what it's supposed to do. But what I mostly did, I'd say, for maybe 20 years of my career was try to get things smaller and smaller. And we always had the vision of having a microprocessor, the whole thing on a chip, but we couldn't. They had no technology to make a thin film and a layer. They could put that many circuits on a chip, and how many pins could you have on a thing to make the thing plug in? And so every year, 5 years, 10 years, kept getting smaller and smaller. People got the better ways of making thin films, and nowadays you can see what they've done. And I'm sure, memory in the days when I was working, we had 64K bytes would be bigger than a refrigerator, and that was core memories. And you had wires going down to drew the cores that had to be done by hand, manually put together. Nowadays you get megabytes on a chip.
I know.
And, it's incredible, the change in memory. Memory is now so cheap that you just keep adding more memory. In those days, you had to, when you wrote a program, you had to have overlays to bring into memory off of the disk or the whatever was your backup tape things. You had to bring in parts of the program and execute it, and then when you're doing the execution, you'd wind up putting that away and doing the execution and bringing in the output display program. And we didn't have memory to keep everything in. And so I think you had to be smarter programmers, because you had to know what has to stay in there, what has to go. Nowadays, everything is there. I mean, you just
huge.
bring the whole thing in. And
Yeah.
if you need 20 megabytes for your program, you use 20 megabytes. And I can remember we used to be maybe 2 or 3 bytes off. If you had 64K, and we'd have to really compress the code to get it to fit in the 64K area. And nowadays, who cares? I mean, you got more memory.
It's huge, yeah.
And I think it's great. I think that's what really opened up the area, is to all these games and all the different things that they can do. And I don't know how they do the parallel processing that they do. IBM now has this chess player thing, that has something like 64 processors working in parallel in there. How you can have each one doing a little bit of different things and bringing them together. I have no idea how they did that. A program is one step at a time. The processor does this, and it does it fast, and it does loops and things. But it's how you can communicate with a whole bunch of different processes, each doing different things. The only way I can envision it is like the weather. You have the different sections in the country, and you have the border conditions going from one to the others, and I think that's one of the things I can picture would be a lot of different microprocessors going together. But how to do other programs, I have no idea how they do them. But it's been a big change.
Well, you have a unique perspective. You've seen technology grow enormously.
Yeah.
In your time, in our lifetimes. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It sounds like you enjoyed your work.
Oh, I enjoyed it. Yeah, I like the hardware, and we did a lot of traveling and did a lot of interesting things.
Did you work for many years with the same people? Was there a continuity of the staff, or was it a very quickly changing?
Well, IBM is a very unusual company, and they call it "I've been moved" instead of like.
I've heard that.
So I've been. You started out in Poughkeepsie with a nice group, and then came down here to research. Research was in Poughkeepsie at the time I started, but then we developed a group of circuits that were fast, and so we went into development up there when research moved down, and I stayed in development up there while we built some of the first transistor computers, and then came down here to research after that. And, but now been back up to Fishkill. I've been up to Kingston and different areas of working, but never moving. They were close enough that you could commute. You could drive back and forth. Maybe an hour and a half, but not necessary to move, which is hard to do when you got a family.
Right.
You can.
What was I just thinking of? And in this whole time when your career was developing, you met Lillian, she said, at a skating rink.
Yeah, that was not when this career was developing. I was at that time working at Hazelton Electronics and in the Naval Reserve, waiting to get called up, and I used to drive the church group where I went to church. The kids, I would drive over to the skating rink. I guess once a month they had a skating party this was the Protestant group, but there was also, I think, a Catholic night and a Jewish night and things. And I met her over there skating one time, and things took off from there.
Do you remember your meeting in detail, or?
Well, I remember seeing her skating and thinking she was very pretty, and might like to get to know her. And haven't gone skating since. But, she couldn't go skating too much because she was in nurse's training, but she happened to get there that night. It was a school night, I believe. I don't know, Tuesday night or Wednesday night. They used to have this once a month for the different groups. And so she was there with her group, and I was there with mine. We communicated mostly by phone calls after that for a while because nurse's training she couldn't get out too often. And, but then we got together.
Do you remember when you decided that you would marry, or if you proposed, or how you proposed, or how it came about?
I used to drive her back and forth to Kings Park, which was a mental hospital out on Long Island. I don't know whether it's still there, probably is. And one time we were going out there, discussed, maybe it'd be nice if we could get married someday. And so I'm not exactly sure what happened, but we got engaged. I got her a ring, and it went on from there. And
the early years of your marriage, when you started having children, are there things in particular you remember becoming a father, or when Billy was born?
Mm-hmm.
Was that you were obviously were you in school?
No, I was at IBM then. Oh. Yeah, I was at IBM. We got married in my senior year at IBM in December because she couldn't get married until she was graduated. It wouldn't work in these days, but now the people would call it discrimination, But you had to be single, and her graduation was in, I think, the end of September, and my classes started in about the middle of September. In those days, colleges started later than the schools, and so we had to put it off from the summer. We couldn't get married in the summer because she wasn't graduating into this, and we didn't want to wait till next summer. So we decided, let's get married in December, and we did. And then we lived up on campus. They had married couples left over from the World War II. Used to have a big military complex up there for officers, I guess, that they used to send to different classes. And, so they had the married couples, little huts and things, sort of, but very nice, one bedroom. And when I graduated, we moved to Poughkeepsie, and that was it.
And then you had Billy.
Yeah, my son was born in Poughkeepsie. The next year, I guess, yeah. We started IBM 56, and in 57, my son was born, and yeah, I remember that very well. It was a snowy night, and we lived in, we moved to 4 or 5 places in the early years. We've been in this house a long time, but we moved from a little apartment that we had rented when we first went down to Poughkeepsie out to Hopewell Junction, which was about 10 miles, 15 miles out, so that we'd have an extra bedroom. Once Lo got pregnant, we needed a place for a little more room, and it was in March that he was born, and it was snowy. The roads were curvy getting in there, but we made it, and because the first one takes a long time anyway, so we...
Were you in the waiting room, or were you in...
Yeah, I was...
Fathers weren't in the...
I was in the waiting room. My wife probably said no, that I was probably out eating someplace.
We didn't talk about it.
But I was a little nervous, too. I mean, being the first one, I'm probably not as nervous as she was, but certainly nervous. And I was very happy that it was a boy, but it would have certainly settled for a girl, which we got the next 2 were the girls, and then finally we got a boy again in the 4th one.
Did you wish you could be in the... I guess nobody really thought...
No, you never, in those days, you never could go in the room. You couldn't, not even before it. I mean, wait up to a certain time. You had to just leave everything to the hospital to do and they'll come out and tell you when they're ready to tell you. And I don't think I paced the floor like they show in the pictures, but I was probably nervous, and it did take a long time.
Yeah.
We got her there at night, and I think it was sometime in the afternoon that she finally had the boy.
Wow. Do you remember the early months of, I mean, you were working, obviously, and do you remember the first months of parenthood, how you juggled having an infant?
No, I certainly went to work, and she was home with the baby. I believe probably her mother was up there because they lived on Long Island, and they used to come up all the time to see us. So I assumed that she stayed there for a week or two. And that's... I know we cried a lot and things, and you had to get used to sleepless nights and things, but it was a nice time.
Had you always wanted a big family?
We always wanted four. We had agreed when we were engaged that we would have 4 kids, and we got 4 kids. And, fortunately, we stopped. I'm glad we didn't get any more. It was hard enough sending those 4 to college and things, but and we managed to do it. And
have you enjoyed watching them all
grow up?
marry and grow up? And
Yeah.
children of their own? And
Yeah, I heard Lo say something about Diane. Hallelujah. That was one part I heard, and I knew what that was. Yeah, Diane took a long time to get married, but the rest of them, yeah, they grew up. They went to high school. They went to everything around here that they could do. Whenever they wanted to do a sport or anything, we were always supportive of them. If they didn't want to do it, that was fine too. But
and then becoming a grandfather, which you also were quite young when you became a grandfather.
yeah, I was. Let's see. I was trying to think of. Yeah, I was probably in the 40s. My son got married early. My oldest son, Bill, and they had a son fairly fast. And in fact, 2 sons, Luca and Jesse, were both born fast. I don't know how old I was. I can't think of what year that was. Probably 1980 something. Lo would remember all the dates, but it must have been about 1980 that Jesse was born. Yeah, and I would have been 50 at that time. I was born 1930.
Yeah.
80, right? Mm-hmm. Right. Mm-hmm.
And so now you have a huge brood of grandchildren and
Mm-hmm.
big family.
We have a terrific extended family, and when they all get together, it's overwhelming. And we just had this Christmas. We had so many people here, you could hardly walk in the place. And this is not a big house for that. You know, you need a entertainment place. But they all get along. Everyone is fine.
And the grandchildren range in age from, I guess the youngest is still quite small.
The youngest is 3. It's Brian, I guess. Dimmy's young one, and the oldest was Jesse, who would have been, I guess, 25, 26. He was the first one, and he's no longer with us, at least not presently here. But we'll see him someday. I can remember when he was born. We used to go up to Boston, and he'd be 1 or 2 years old. I don't know how long they lived up in Boston, but he used to hate to see us go. They would start to cry when we would leave, and they had to hide him and take him in another room so we could get out of there, and he wouldn't notice we were gone until we were out of there. But he used to like his grandmother. And,
You were very close. I would say he was the first of the grandchildren.
He was the first one. He was born prematurely, so we went up there. I came home from working. She said, "We're going up to Boston." I said, "What for?" She said, "Well, the baby came early." And so we drove up to Boston, and he was in, I guess they took him to Boston General Hospital, one of the big hospitals there. And I can remember we looked in the window, and this little guy was there kicking his feet and moving his arms, so tiny, so many wires coming out of him, you could hardly see him. And the nurse who was standing there next to me said, "We call him Spitfire," he's full of pep and full of energy, and he came through it okay. But he was born something like 4 pounds. Got to be a big, strong guy, but he had a tough beginning, and I guess you might say a tough ending too. He got involved in the drug culture of the day, and didn't make it. We tried to do everything for him, rehabilitation and all kinds of things, but it's, I guess, one of those addictions that it's very hard to get out of. And either he got something bad or whatever, but he OD'd, and that was it. All the rest of them are still around, but we certainly miss him. He was a good, very smart kid, and, very strong, and always willing to help, but never could get away from those. He was a wrestler. He was a soccer player. He did a lot of things in schools, but the drugs got him. And,
Was he close with his brothers?
Oh yeah, he'd do anything for his brothers, and I think he did more to keep them off drugs than anything else. He made sure that they didn't get involved in them, even though he was still stuck on them. And
when you say that you'll meet him again, do your spiritual beliefs?
Oh yeah, I believe that we'll see him in the hereafter, and we'll recognize him. And yeah.
So, I was just asking you about when you retired.
I retired back in 92, 91 actually. My wife, being a nurse, IBM came up with a plan to cap the health benefits for for the IBMers, and anyone who retired before 92 would not be subject to the caps that they were going to put on their health. And she said she has seen so many people lose all their money and things from all the health problems that you can have.
Yeah.
That she said, better retire, take it. And I had turned down a couple before that they had incentives to retire, and I didn't want to get involved with them. But this one, when they started talking about the health benefits being capped for anyone who retires after 92, would be made it very very acceptable to take their terms. They had good reasons for it, and and Lil hooked me into it. But I still enjoyed what I was doing. I would have liked to continue on. Yeah.
Do you remember what you were working on just prior?
Actually, we were working on MPEG, which I guess you've heard of now, but I don't know. They now have MPEG 4, but we would to take a video in and compress it and take it back out. We could put it back out in real time, but we couldn't take it in and compress it onto. The memories weren't that fast, and the hard disk didn't have that much memory, and we were working on the chips to do it in hardware rather than the software to actually manipulate the image, and and we hadn't gotten into how to take the sound and make it integrated with the video. If you compress the video, you've got to have the sound so that the mouth goes at the right time, so that the sound also has to be put in the same thing. We hadn't got into that part, and but it was very interesting, and I enjoyed what I was doing, and would have kept doing it. But I was 62, and I felt I could get Social Security at that time, so why not go? And the company was having trouble. They're still having trouble, I guess, but they had so many people, they grew so fast that it was. I figured, let the older people go, let the younger people keep it going. And,
do you continue to follow the developments in the field, or have you more or less?
Not too much, except I see MPEG 4, and I say, what did they do? We had just MPEG, but now they have 1, 2, 3, 4, and I don't know what the differences are, what the compression theory is, how they compressed it. we used to use inverse cosine transform is what we used to try to cut down the memory size that we used. And, but it was a very always working on something new, which was always challenging. And but it gets harder and harder as you get older to keep up with everything.
Yeah.
And, so I feel it was a good time. I retired. I had a good career with IBM. I don't think too many people will have it anymore, because now they're talking about you know, changing all the pensions and all the things, because you're not going to work too long with the same company.
Right.
Back in the days when I was working with them, they had country clubs, not down here, but up in Poughkeepsie and Endicott. You could go there and spend all day with your kids. They had swimming pools, they had the golf courses, they had bowling alleys, and a place where you could have parties and picnic areas. And it was a very, very family-oriented company. Now they're all gone.
Yeah.
I know the country clubs are now community centers and things in the different areas, and they've all been sold. And,
Yeah.
you gotta keep up with the times. And,
Do you use a computer now?
Oh, yeah.
Day to day, yeah.
mostly for finance and things of that type. But I pay my bills by the computer. I use the internet to get information on whatever I want information on, whether it's a reservation or some particular topic.
Do you get satisfaction out of seeing how quickly it's advanced? I mean, even though you're no longer working in it.
Well, I'm amazed at how
Yeah.
you can do with little handheld things. You can communicate the internet and get all the information you need. And
Yeah.
it is incredible. Excuse me.
Yeah. Is there anything that we haven't covered through
No,
your
I think
life?
you've covered
that-
too much.
No, not at all. We asked your wife, and I'd like to ask you as well, what, if anything, what words of advice you would pass along, just from your years of living and experience, and is there anything you would say to all the generations that follow you about being happy or...
Well, that's a tough thing to think about in a short time, but I think you gotta learn to be resilient. You gotta not expect everyone to agree with you. Your wife and you are gonna have fights. You're gonna disagree on things, but you gotta compromise. You can't have a marriage with one person doing all the bossing around. I don't think we've had that, but that was quite a boss sometimes. But I wish you all a lot of luck in the future, and I think we've given you a good start, and I hope that you'll continue it and give it on to your kids.
It sounds like your faith has also been an important part of your life.
My who?
Your religious,
Oh, yeah,
spiritual
Mhm.
beliefs.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
a very, I try to get that into my kids too. That, you hear a lot about science and religion difference, but when they get the truth, it's all the same. And